The assassination of Charlie Kirk yesterday on, it wasn't live TV, but pretty much live TV, really is hitting me hard. I didn't really interact with Charlie Kirk. I didn't really follow him. Every once in a while I'd tune into one of his talks with people who are questioning him, and always respected his ability to articulate his position and to do so with good humor and not really with much snark or meanness. And I'm aware of his political activity, running Turning Point USA, which I haven't spent any time investigating or interviewing anybody on. Just aware of his role in the conservative movement as a very moderate person in the conservative movement, and as with the conservative movement more broadly, slowly becoming more and more rightist, more and more realistic with regard to in-group and out-group preference and the need to respect difference, like truly respect difference, and understand that certain differences are much deeper than mere ideology, which is a whole conversation in itself. To what degree can the liberal project of discussion really work, and who does it work for, and what does it work for and toward? And I have questions about that. I consider myself a liberal in constitution and by trade. That is, I'm open-minded. I engage with people across difference, and I attempt to do so respectfully. Maybe some of my social media posts are a bit inflammatory from time to time, and I do tend to mock people who are close to me, the so-called classical liberals who over the past year or so have turned their criticism from the woke left to, or woke classic, to what they consider the woke right, which I disagree with. And I don't think that they understand or are willing to engage in good faith with voices to the right that are offering alternatives and criticisms to liberal ideology and certain tenets of liberalism that are baked into it really deep down, such as the blank slate. And that rational discourse can be the mode by which we solve problems. So I'm really surprised, kind of shocked by how much I'm being affected by Charlie's assassination. And I think there's several different levels to it. One, thinking about his children is almost unbearable. Their father was sacrificed on the altar of political mental derangement. Now, it doesn't matter if some foreign government or a leftist, so-called, did the deed, but the reaction from leftists celebrating Charlie's murder shows us that their ideology that casts anybody of a differing viewpoint as fascists and Nazis and deserving of something worse than a bullet, they really do believe. And I do believe we should take that seriously, but at the same time, Charlie was challenging that mental derangement with good humor and intelligence and discussion. He was using the mode by which I've been, this might be why I'm taking it so personal. It's the very same mode of engagement that I've been deploying for the last 7.5 or 8 years, however long it's been since I started my channel, deconstructing the insanity at Evergreen State College, which was the death of discourse in that tiny little milieu, and then watching that cancerous anti-discussion ideology eventually swell to engulf the world in 2020. And so I think that whether I like it or not, Charlie represents me. And why would I like it? Why would I not like it? He represents me and my project. Even though I can smirk at the liberal presupposition that there is a marketplace of ideas, I engage with that marketplace of ideas. And he represents that and represented that. And watching, there's that role, Rust Cole from True Detective, season 1. You don't need to say season 1 because there's only one season of True Detective, as far as I'm concerned. He shows a videotape to Marty, and Marty looks away, and Rust says, "I will not avert my eyes." And it's up to you whether or not you want to watch these videos that come out of people dying. And I think that it's really, it's toxic material, and that toxin needs to be appropriately consumed, because it has the power to deeply modify your soul and your relationship to your own humanity and the humanity of others. And it can reify your relationship to humanity by evoking disgust and outrage and anger for crimes against humanity. And it can deaden you to the severity of those crimes by desensitizing you. And a few years ago, when Libs of TikTok gained a lot of traction, I counseled moderation in consuming these TikTok videos of specifically young, mentally deranged children or young people spouting off their, leftist or critical theory nonsense, or whatever the ideology, whatever you want to call the ideology. You consume too much of that, and then you participate in shaming those children who are already filled with shame and disgust themselves and are taking it out on the world via this ideology that runs on resentment. And I think resentment is poison, and it's the death of things. So I watch that video and I see that image of Charlie dying almost instantly. That clean shot right to the throat, the seat of rational discourse. One of the primary functions of humanity is to converse, is to communicate, is to harmonize with each other through our voices. And Charlie was a master of that medium. And I'm a practitioner of that medium. And so there's that. There's his children and his family and the sacrificing of their innocence. And then there's a personal affront to my own innocence that talking can move us closer to truth and harmony. And then there is the young people that I've been concerned about for years now. One thread running through all of my work has been concern for young people. And in my documenting of the detransitioners, you'll find a lot of young people going through a very primary archetypal struggle to find themselves and using the wrong means to get there. And then realizing in those detransitioner videos, a lot of those young people realize at some point that they are living a lie, and they turn away from that. And they look at their scars and they move forward. And Charlie was the head of an organization that was providing a rational brick road for young people to walk away from the madness that they were being taught. They have been being taught by media and their schools. And if you look at a lot of the hate that's coming towards Charlie and a lot of the celebration, it's a lot of teachers and a lot of people who've been indoctrinated by our system of education. And Charlie was going to those places of education that were their entire purpose of being is to provide intelligent discourse and the pursuit of truth in an open, calm, and rational manner. And he was confronting that cancer, that civilizational cancer at the site of its promulgation. And that's where they took him out. And those young people who have been either immune to the indoctrination of this mental illness of resentment, or who were reacting to it or had grown tired of it, he was providing them a way forward, away from radicalization. And this damages that project. And those young people their innocence has been sacrificed too on the altar of political mental derangement. And I hope that they can find mentorship and true love. And in the absence of mentorship and real love, not demagoguery, but real relationship with elders that can guide them, without that connection, demagoguery and radicalization will be the result. And it is the responsibility of every one of us to turn away from the political enough and face the human enough for those relationships to grow, for there to be something for those young people who are not going to accept political mental derangement from the left, to stand on something other than reaction to that. And a reaction is coming. A reaction needs to come, and it will not take the form. I don't think it's going to take the form that we think it's going to take. I'm not afraid of fascism in America. I look at America. We're not. It just doesn't work strategically for a fascist ethno-state to take hold. But certain attitudes and certain levels of intolerance towards outlier behavior will come to the fray, to rein in those outliers that are tearing apart the fabric of communion, both on the level of community and then on the level of family, and then on the level between individuals and their God. That spiritual communion between the self and the transcendent. All of those things, community, family, and the transcendent, are under assault. And Charlie stood for all of those things and stood against the forces that were tearing those things apart. And it just doesn't make any sense that that happened. I can't get my head around that. That's absolutely senseless. And I pray for his family, and I pray for the people who are put at risk by this, to be pushed in directions where resentment's going to take hold and hatred's going to take hold. And I mean that really, and I don't want to get into what I mean by resentment and hatred, because that gets into the leftist form and the rightist form of intolerance and hatred and stuff. And there's nuance, and the waters have been muddied. What we've heard is hate is actually not hate. What we've heard as intolerance is actually beneficent intolerance. And sorting through those ideas is very important. And there are different conversations and levels of the conversation that are ongoing, and people who would cast shade on those discussions I still take umbrage with. And I won't get into that. Because I want more discourse. In the wake of discourse being assaulted so blatantly, I still stand for discourse. Anyhow, Kit needs some food. I hope you're well. That's my message. And I stick by it. Anyways, talk to you guys soon. Bye.